All right, we're gonna get started with our meeting for tonight. So I guess we can start with a roll call. Hold on one second, let me just get everyone up. Okay, hold on. All right, Jovan Miles, Christy Owens, Corey Frazier. You can just say present if you're here.
Here.
Christine Owens.
Ms. Owens can't.
Oh, I see her. She's fighting to unmute. Tori McCrary. Okay. Sherry Rosales.
Here.
Allison Tolman. I am here. We have Jayton O'Sullivan. Okay. And we have the other community member. The name is Ms. Nunn, can you remind me of our new, Gino Turner.
Present.
Okay, thank you for joining. All right, so tonight before we get started, I want to make an amendment to our present agenda that we have. So I'm going to bring it up and share my screen.
I finally got it unmuted. I am so sorry. I'm on the phone and I could not find that little speaker.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Owens, for joining us tonight.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to share the agenda for tonight so that we can make that amendment. Can you see my screen? Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, you can see it. Okay, so if we look at section 3, part B for the approval of the minutes from the 5/21, that meeting was actually held on April 9th. So we're going to share the screen to get approval for the minutes of our last meeting for the 2023-2024 school year from April 9th. So, Ms. Nunn, do you want to go ahead and share the screen? Do I stop sharing this now so we can bring that up?
No, what we need to do first is make sure that we get approval to amend the agenda so we're not looking at 5/21. We're actually going to be looking at April 9th, 2024. That is the actual date. So we will need to get a motion to approve the amended agenda. So instead of saying 5/21, it's going to say April 9th, 2024.
Okay. So I make a motion
to accept
Can someone second that? Thank you, Ms. Rosales. Okay. Do we need a second? Can I get a second?
I second it.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we're gonna move ahead with our action items for tonight. We're taking a look at our agenda for tonight, and then we're going to make a motion. So a motion, if you agree with our agenda for tonight. Can I get someone to make a motion to approve our agenda for tonight? May I have someone to approve for our Go Team agenda for tonight, for September 24th?
Make a motion for the agenda of tonight.
Okay. May I have someone to second that?
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Turner. Appreciate it. Okay, now we're going to look at the approval for last meeting that was held. Hold on one second. Let me just get my screen ready. For August Go Team meeting. Hold on. All right, there we go. So these were our minutes from our last meeting held on August 27th, 2024. I'm going to scroll through it, and then we're going to make a motion to approve. See if it passes or fails. During this meeting, we voted on member seats within the Go team.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All right. One of the action items for tonight, we need to go over some Go Team meeting dates for our January meeting and our April meeting. So our January meeting and April meeting were both scheduled for Mondays. The first one is January 20th. So if anyone can get out their calendar. So January 20th, and keeping it cohesive, if we would move it to the 21st, which is a Tuesday. If everyone is comfortable with moving our January meeting from January 20th to January 21st or January 28th. They're both Tuesdays and it will be at the same time. So does anybody want to vote for, does anybody have a preference on the 21st or the 28th?
Do we need to make a motion?
We need to decide which one we're going to go with, the 21st or the 28th. So if anyone wants to come up mute and, say whether the 21st works or the 28th works.
I vote for the 21st.
The 21st, okay. All right. Okay, does anybody, okay, so is everyone okay with the 21st before I make a motion? Ms. Rosales?
21st is good.
Okay.
Is the 21st on Monday, you said? Or
No, the
Tuesday?
21st would be a Tuesday. So we're moving
Tuesday.
it from, you agree with that, Ms. Owens?
Well, I'm not in front of my calendar, but I'll go with it for now. But
Oh.
we'll see what happens. I'll make it.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. And Corey also agrees. All right. Is that enough? The 21st. Okay. And Gino agrees as well. Okay. I make a motion to move our January meeting from the 20th to the 21st. Does anyone? I make a motion. Ms. Owens, you have
I
to
second the motion.
Okay.
Yes.
And Ms. Owens, thank you so much. Now for our April date, it is now scheduled for April 24th, which is also a Monday. And we were thinking to move it to the 22nd, which is, hold on one second.
April 24th is on a Thursday, so we need.
I know. Oh yes, it was on a Thursday. I know. Sorry. April 24th was on a Thursday, and to keep it cohesive with a Tuesday, could we move it from Thursday the 24th to Tuesday the 22nd? And that'll be the best date. It's right after spring break, and then the following week we wouldn't be able to because we would be going into May, the end of the school year. So is April 22nd okay to move the meeting from a Thursday to that Tuesday, the 22nd? In April.
Oh, no Thursday. No Thursday.
Yes, so we're moving it to Tuesday.
Yes,
the 22nd.
yes.
Right. April
Okay,
22nd.
it's fine with me.
April 22nd is good.
Okay, so I make a motion to move that meeting from the 24th to the 22nd.
I
Okay.
second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to turn it over to Ms. Nunn to go over the discussion items for tonight.
Good afternoon, everybody. So Mr. Miles is not here today, and we've had a few people under the weather. So I'm going to be sharing the discussion items in his place. So the first thing we're going to talk about, or excuse me, the first area that we're going to talk about for tonight's meeting is our strategic plan. And I'm going to pull that up on the screen so everyone can see. Just give me one moment so that it is visible for everybody. Hopefully you can all see this. I'm gonna increase the size. Is everybody able to see this document? If not, I can move it to another screen. Is it small?
No,
I'm
Yes, it's
sorry.
I can see it.
Okay,
Yes,
I
Yeah.
won't be able to see it because I'm on the phone,
okay, I'll
but
be talking you through it, Miss.
I'm listening. Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk you through. So with
If
these,
you can make it bigger, I think it would be helpful. It's extremely small.
I'm actually gonna move it to another screen, so then that will help with the view. So give me 1 second. Is that better? Is everybody able to see?
increase it about one more
Uh-huh.
size, Ms. Nunn, please.
Yeah, I'm on increase. I just want to make sure everybody can see. Is everybody
Yeah.
able to see this? Okay.
I'm able to see.
Okay, so with our strategic plan, we've already gone through this with, this is the template that we've been using with Atlanta Public Schools. And we identify our goals and strategies for the upcoming school year, and these are our literacy SMART goals. So we basically looked at, we have action steps. So one of our action steps is to routinely use a set of comprehension building practices to help students make sense of text. And what we're really trying to work on as a school is really getting into those foundational skills that we see through our data. Our students are having some issues with as far as retention and maybe not having those skills as they matriculate to the next grade. So part of our literacy SMART goal plan is to really dig into those foundational skills, as well as moving into the reading comprehension skills, because if they don't have those foundational literacy skills, they're going to have a difficult time with the reading comprehension. So we're going to rely, as far as our data is concerned, on the biweekly assessment data that we are getting. We have AR assessment data. We will be using AR as part of an ongoing strategy, as well as looking at MAP data. We're looking at both growth and achievement. Today just happens to be a day that we took as a team to look at our data from MAP. We looked at math and ELA, and we used what is called an Atlas protocol. And with that Atlas protocol, it allowed us as a teacher team to really look at that particular those data points where students are based on the fall assessment for MAP. And we were able to really dive in and look at next steps as to how we're going to adjust our teaching practices to the student needs. We looked at students from a general ed lens, as well as our subgroup, which would be special education. So with the strategic plan, we're just going through some of the steps that we're doing for literacy and for numeracy. So if you look at the numeracy part, and I'll talk you through that for our people who can't actually see it, it's really teaching that teachers are making sure that it's clear and concise, using that mathematical language to support the students' learning. So what we want to make sure that we're doing, especially because our standards for math are new, we want to make sure that we're using the language of the standard, as well as teaching those foundational math skills, making sure our students understand number sense, making sure our students understand place value. These are foundational math skills that our students will need as they matriculate through their various grade levels all the way to 5th grade while they're here with us. We want to make sure that in our K2 grade levels, we're setting that strong foundation before they enter 3 through 5 and they enter those grade levels to take the Georgia Milestones Assessment. So as part of that strategic plan, we're really looking at our classroom observations. We're looking at the work that we do in our professional learning communities, that we do that 2 times a week to make sure that when we come together and we are collaborating, we are really focusing on individualized student work, and we're making sure that our small groups are really tailored to the needs of the students in the classroom at that time. We also looked at the whole child from our perspective for this particular strategic plan. And we just talked about building that our SEL practices as a school. We want to make sure that we are really honing in on our morning meetings every day. And we do morning meetings for 20 minutes every day, just to make sure we set the day up so that students can feel successful. We're also getting into reading, doing a lot of reading along that same tone, not just at the literacy part of the day, but making reading a part of the whole day. So when you look at the whole child intervention support that we're trying to give this year, we want to make sure that our students are not looking at it from a lens of it's only happening one part of the day. We want them to see that these same skills are transferred throughout the day, no matter what subject area, even when they're going to their enrichment classes. So this document, and it will be uploaded to the website as well, is really just explaining the strategic plan from that perspective that we have to do with APS. But I also want to show you our strategic plan goals. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and bring up another document, and I will put that on the screen so you can see what the goals are and how the action steps led to those goals. And I will increase the size of this document as well. So here we have our actual goals itself. So for literacy, our goal is to increase the percentage of students scoring developing and above in ELA from 33.6 to 49.1% by spring 2025, as measured by our Georgia Milestones Assessment and MAP, and increase the percentage of students scoring proficient and above in ELA from 10% to 20% by spring 2025, as measured by our MAP and Georgia Milestones Assessments. For numeracy, which is our math lens, where our goal is to increase the percentage of students scoring developing above in our Georgia Milestones Assessment for math from 41.9% to 58% by spring 2025, and increase the percentage of students scoring proficient and above on GMAS in math from 8.7% to 17.4% by spring 2025. For our numeracy lens, we are unable to share our spring 2024 GMAS data at this meeting because those will not be able for release to the public till the end of this month. So when we come to our next Go Team meeting, Mr. Miles is going to be able to share our math data. And I do believe, based on the math data, that these SMART goals may change based on the performance of where we were from last year. Lastly, for our whole child, the goal is to ensure that at least 60% of our Tier 2, Tier 3, and our students with disabilities meet their individual MAP growth goals by spring 2025. And how we want to measure that on the literacy lens, again, we're going to be doing those classroom observations of the teacher practice. And the teacher practice is a lot of what we are working with teachers in during our PLCs. And we're also going to be reviewing that student assessment data. So we'll have two pieces of student assessment data that we're going to be ongoing looking at. One being the individual assessments that they're taking based on the curriculum. And for ELA, those are called our progress checkups. And then we're going to have our MAP progress. So we've only taken fall MAP this time. We will not take another MAP assessment until the winter, and that will be during December. For numeracy, again, we're going to be looking at the classroom observations of the teacher practice, looking at those student assessments, and again, looking at MAP. And with our whole child intervention piece, we'll be looking at those classroom observations, and we'll be looking at student assessments and the MAP progress as well. And when we look at classroom observations, we have a tool that is called SchoolMint. And we have inside SchoolMint, we have rubrics that we are measuring based on the goals, the things that we need to see in the classroom. So for example, if we're looking at small group, we're making sure that the work that students are doing in small group is aligned to the standard of the day. When we're looking at teacher practice, we're making sure that what we talk about and discuss in our professional learning communities every Monday and Tuesday, it is transferring to student support and instruction when we come into the classroom. So we want to make sure the things that we're talking about, that we're saying we're going to do, that we're actually doing them. And we want to measure how that is how is it effective to our students as far as their instruction is concerned. So this is what I've shared right now is our school-wide plan and our SMART goals regarding our strategic plan. The next thing I wanted to make sure that, well, before I move on, I wanted to make sure, see if there were any questions about anything that was discussed so far, whether it be the SMART goals or our strategic plans. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to discuss with you, and I'm going to bring it on the screen, and many of the people, the teachers on this call have seen this before. We're going to be looking at our MAP data, and this is from the fall 2024. This was taken during August of this year, all the way up to early September. So I'm going to share this screen, and the first one we're going to look at is math. Excuse me. So when we think about the map and we're looking at grade 2 to 5th grade, as well as our subgroup of students with disabilities, percentage of students scoring developing above. Last year, if you can see in this column, for the grade levels, the last year on fall map, our second graders were scoring 79.4, third grade were scoring 48.7, fourth grade was 51.6, and grade 5 was 31.3 when they took MAP in the fall of 2023. Our students with disabilities were scoring at a 12.5%. The last year at the winter MAP, they were at 76. Grade 2 was at 76. Grade 3 was at 58.5. Grade 4 was at 52.2. Grade 5 was at 36.8. And our students with disabilities were at 16%. From each of the different administrations of the MAP last year, we were able to see growth with our students. So when we look at this school year, which is in this blue area, we've only taken the fall MAP. But these second graders that were taking fall MAP last year are now our third graders. So last year they were taking they were at 79.4%. And this year as third graders, they're at 75.3% for the fall MAP with our math data. Again, this was early in the year. There was only maybe 2 weeks of instruction. So this is a good percentage of our students that were scoring developing and above for a first look at all of the MAP standards that were covered. And if you're unfamiliar with MAP, MAP is a test that is adaptive. So as students take their test and they answer each question correctly, the questions become harder. When we look at our fourth grade from this year, which was last year's third graders, in the fall, those third grade students were scoring 48.7%. This year, they were scoring 60% in developing and above. So that is a 12% jump from last year. So we're seeing the work from the matriculation from our third to fourth to fifth. It's showing up more than ever as we are continuing with improving our practices and moving our students forward. That those fifth graders from last year in the fall scored 31.3%. They are now, these fifth graders that scored were here last year, they're now at middle school. So when you look at fifth grade this year, these are our last year's fourth graders. And this year they scored 56.5% of our students scored developing and above. Again, that is that's almost a 20 plus percentage point jump in the number of students from the previous year that scored developing and above. So we're seeing progress in the right direction. And the same thing with our students with disabilities. Last year in the fall for math, it was 12.5. This year, it was 16.7. So when we look at the school-wide data, in the fall, we had 44% of our students scoring developing and above. This year, we have 67.4 of our students that are scoring in developing and above for the fall map. And this means that that's less students in our beginning category. And we want to have the least amount of students that are scoring at beginning. When we look at proficient, we're seeing the same type of growth. The last year's second graders scored 27.9 in the fall in proficient and above, and that means they're scoring proficient and distinguished. This year, we had 34.2 students who scored from those in the third grade assessment that scored proficient and above. Last year's third graders in math for the fall math, they were only scoring 7.7% at proficient and above. We've moved that number to 17.3%. That's a 10 percentage point jump. And then our last year's fourth graders, they were at 17.7%. Today, our fifth graders, they're now fifth grade, they are at 12.9%. So they're in fifth grade last year, did not have any students that were scoring proficient and above. So now we have 12% of our students, almost 13% of our students scoring at proficient and above. We still have work to do with our students with disabilities, as we did not have anybody in developing and above, but again, in the proficient and above. But again, we have 16.7 that were scoring developing and above in math. So we're looking at that data to see where they are scoring, to see if we can move those students to the proficient and the distinguished categories. And I wanted to just see if there were any questions before I move to the reading data. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to share the reading data with everyone. So now we are able to see what reading. One caveat to this that I would like to say for reading is that this does not include any writing. So when we think about our Georgia Milestone Assessment, the map does not include a writing component. So we're only looking at the multiple choice questions in relation to how they would score on milestones. So last year, our second graders we had 54.4% that were scoring at developing and above. Those second graders are now third graders, and this year for math, they scored at 65.8% of 65.8% of those students scored in the developing and above category. That is a growth. Our third graders last year, 37.1.
Ms. Nunn, Ms. Nunn, I'm sorry to cut you off. One of the community members have to run. Will we still have quorum if they leave?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jean.
All right, for our third grade from last year, we had 37.1%. So 37.2 if you round it up, that were scoring at developing in the developing and above category. This year we were at almost 51% of those now fourth graders. Those fourth graders from last year, our fourth graders were scoring 45.1% of those students were scoring in developing and above. They are now fifth graders, and we had 56.5% of our fifth graders scoring at developing and above. And our students with disabilities, we had 8% of our students were scoring at developing and above. We have 16.7% of our students scoring at developing and above on our fall map. So we went from a school-wide of 44.2% of students scoring at developing and above to now we have 56% of our students scoring at developing above. And this is the beginning of the year. When we look at the proficient and above categories, again, our second graders from last year were scoring at 19% at proficient and above. 19% of our students in second grade were scoring at proficient and above. This year, that number rose to 32.9% of our students were at either proficient or distinguished. Our third graders from last year, almost 12% of those students were scoring in the proficient and above categories. This year, as fourth graders, 16% of our students are scoring at the proficient and above category for our fall map. And with our last year fourth graders, 24% of those students were scoring in the proficient and above category for the fall map. And we have 27% of those students this year, now fifth graders, who are scoring at proficient and above. So in from grades 2 to 5, we've seen growth from fall to fall, that's year to year. Last year, our SWD was at 4% scoring at proficient and above. We did not have any students this year, but I'm very confident in the work in our special education team and the work that we're doing, that we will have students in proficient and above by the time we finish with spring math. School-wide, last year, we were at 16, almost 70% of our students scoring at proficient and above. And this year, for our fall math, we had 23% of our students scoring at proficient and above school-wide. So again, from a year to year, we've made growth in those areas. And this is also just showing where we are from kindergarten through fall 23 and fall 24, from kindergarten to fifth grade, of how we are scoring in our fall year to year. So kindergarten would not have any data because this is their first data point. But as you can see, grades 1 through 5, these are all students who took the assessment last year. So from fall 23 to fall 24, you can see where they've had growth, or they might have taken a slight dip. And then you can see what that growth and achievement looks like. We are really aiming to look and try to grow our achievement levels this year with our students. We seem to do really well with the growth. We want to make sure that we're also doing really well with achievement. And this is an area that we're going to be focusing on for the rest of the year when it comes to our MAP data. I wanted to make sure before I moved on and see if there was any questions regarding the reading map that I just shared. All right. And the last piece of data that I'm going to share with you that Mr. Miles wanted to make sure that we looked at is our year-by-year comparison for milestones. And again, I will not be able to share the math portion for 2024 because it has not been, the embargo has not been lifted. However, at our next meeting, Mr. Miles will be sharing the whole school data as far as reading and math is concerned and how we did with that data. So I'm going to share the screen and we'll just look at some comparison data at this point. So we're looking now at our year-to-year data. As you can see here, we have 2018 through 23. Remember, 2021, we did not, those scores were not counted because that was during COVID. So that is not, we don't have that data. But if you look at from our 2018 to 2023, we can see where we've gone with ELA, where we have come from with ELA, with math. And remember that science is only done in 5th grade. We do not take social studies in 5th grade anymore. So in 2018 in ELA, we had 7.9% students with that proficient and above. We went in 2019, we went to 13.2. 2022 was our first year back in school after COVID, our first face-to-face school. So we did take a dip to 6.1. And in 2023, the next school year back in, we were at 9.7%. For math, 2018, which is before COVID, we were at 14.5% in proficient and above. And in 2019, which is the year right before COVID, we were bumped up to 16.9. 2020 and 2021, we were online and we were dealing with COVID. So in 2022, when we did come back, we did take a huge dip in math, and that was our proficient and above went to 3.1%. However, this past year, we put some strategies in place and we were able to move that up to 8.9%. So our goal is to get back to pre-COVID numbers in both ELA, math, and science. So for science, again, it's only with our 5th grade students. The 2018 year was at 14.9% of our students were at proficient and above. And 2019, right before COVID, we were bumped up to 18% of our students were at proficient and above. When we came back from COVID, we did take a dip. And we were at 1.3% of our students that were at proficient and above. However, that next year for science, we were able to move the students and get back to close to our pre-COVID numbers at 9.2% of our students scoring proficient and above in science. So our goal, again, as we're looking at all of our assessments, we love to see the growth. The growth is good, but we're also focusing on achievement because we want to make sure that our students are meeting achievement levels in our MAP data as well as our Georgia Milestones data. So I wanted to make sure I answer, excuse me, I'm sorry, any questions regarding the data that was shared with the Go team today. All right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on in the agenda. I did receive some notes from Mr. Miles regarding I know that there's a part of our work today was discuss, excuse me, the school uniform, school uniform option and our position on how we want to move forward. Right now, at this point, we are at a optional regarding school uniforms. And Mr. Miles has asked that we stay at an optional. And the reason being is that we experience a lot of families who would not send their children to school if they did not have a uniform. They might not have a uniform because it might not be clean at the time. They might not have money to purchase a uniform. And we are of the belief that we really just want to make sure the students are here. We have a policy that if we have students who are in need, we work with our social worker to ensure that the clothing needs, whether it be coats, shirts, pants, etc., are met, and we try to meet those needs, but we do not want to hinder the learning of any of our students for the simple fact that they do not have a uniform. So we do not want we don't want that uniform policy to have an unintentional negative impact on our attendance. So at this time, Mr. Miles would just like to move forward with not trying to implement a new uniform policy and keeping that uniform policy optional for our families.
Hey, Ms. Nunn.
You're welcome.
This is Chandra from the Go Team office. So even if you all want to maintain whatever uniform policy that you have, you would still need to go through the engagement process. I'm not sure if he sent you he's sending you the information about that, and the Go Team would have to vote, and you'd have to work through that,
No.
with your.
Yeah, he
What'd
didn't
you
send
say?
that to me. He didn't send that to me. Is that possible that we table that until our next meeting and roll that into our October meeting, or does it have to be done during the September meeting?
Do you know when y'all are meeting in October? Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. Give me a second.
I'm pulling it up as well. Our October meeting is on October 29th.
Okay, yeah. If you you guys can put it on that agenda, and that way, and I mean, I guess because you've kind of given your initial thoughts, the team can give their initial thoughts, as well, as far as whether or not you all would be interested in maintaining an optional uniform, and then you guys can talk about the details with the specifics at the next meeting if you like.
Okay. So based on what Ms. Gibson said, if anybody would like to provide their thoughts on maintaining our current policy where it is optional, please do so at this time.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Christine. I think it's a great idea in making it with school uniform. I do. For safety reasons, even that we have a great security at the school, and then the families that cannot purchase the school uniform, I mean, we give them time, and hopefully next year they will have money to buy a uniform. But I think it makes the school uniforms in order. I don't know. I agree in uniforms. That's my thought.
So just to make sure I'm clear, you are advocating that there is a school uniform policy. Is that correct, Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else giving their thoughts?
I was going to say that I like the idea of it being optional for the reasons that Mr. Miles said, because we already have an issue with attendance in general, and having anything that's a hindrance to that, I don't want that, because I want them to be there so they can get the learning. And if it's something that's going to hinder, I prefer them to be there.
Thank you. Was there anybody else that wanted to provide comment? And again, like Ms. Gibson said, we will be bringing this back on to the next meeting, Ms. Williams, when Mr. Miles is here, so then you guys can discuss and make a final decision.
I like it being optional, but I also would like if we could do something like a uniform closet. That way, those students wouldn't be, deterred from coming to school because they knew they come and get a uniform. But maybe like sometime in the next year doing that with the uniform closet.
Thank you. So just want to give the final opportunity for anybody to give comment. And again, we have been given permission to roll this particular discussion item into the October 29th meeting, Ms. Williams. So you'll be able to add that to the agenda and you will be able to make your decision at that point.
I'll also add a comment to the point of having uniform. I understand the uniformity, and I know right now at the top of our table is attendance for our students. We have a really huge attendance issue at the school. So just take that into account, as well as moving forward with uniform. There will be some other steps that have to be taken in order to have that rolled out. So just some thoughts to consider while we have until we get to our by the time we get to our next meeting. That's it.
Ms. Williams, are we ready to go into the principal's report?
Yes, we may move forward with the principal's report.
Okay, thank you. The principal's report, our enrollment now is at 482 students. That's including pre-kindergarten through 5th grade. At this time, there is no plans to do any leveling. The highest that we have right now in our classes, and that's a PK through 5, we're looking at 23 students. And so we do not have any intentions at this current time to do any leveling. We are still receiving students every day, every week here at Slater. So this number could change based on enrollment at the school over time. And at this time, the last thing on the information items for today is the cluster advisory team report. And Ms. Williams, you were at that meeting as well. Did you want to go ahead and give some highlights from the meeting?
Yes, give me 1 second while I get up to, do you have the document to share, or would you like me to share it, Ms. Nunn?
I don't have a physical document. I just was able to talk about what happened at that meeting on Mr. Miles' behalf.
Okay, you can talk about it on his behalf.
Okay, so we had the cluster advisory meeting last week, and we began the meeting with all of the clusters from the entire district at this meeting. There were some people that are on our Go Team call that were at this meeting as well. And the beginning part of the meeting was really just talking about the cluster goals and how we were going to move forward, the operating procedures for all members of the cluster advisory team. And at that time, they were able to split up the team based on each individual cluster. So Ms. Williams is part of our cluster advisory team for the Carver cluster. So she was present for that particular meeting, and I went to the meeting on Mr. Miles' behalf. At the time, they talked about the particular goals that they will be doing. There are previous goals that have been put in place for the cluster advisory team. And at the current time, the team has decided to continue with those same goals from last year, which was one was SEL. Another one was about the doing a lot of the collaboration within the Carver cluster. And I believe there was one more that I do not remember off top of my mind, but it's they're going to continue with the same cluster goals they had from last year. And they also decided on different dates and times for the cluster advisory team to meet. The cluster advisory committee is open to anyone who wants to be a part of the cluster. However, only people who are able to really contribute and talk through those meetings are the people who are on the cluster advisory team. So members of the cluster advisory team, they were told that if there were individuals from the community that wanted to be a part of the team and wanted to serve on various committees, whether it be within the cluster or whether it be as a APS safety committee position, they would need to be in contact with their board members and possibly the cluster advisory team to be able to reach out to those individuals to be a part of that. We did hear from Mr. Johnson, the new superintendent, and he did give a lot of information about his plans and his goals. One of those being safety and security being a high level for Mr. Johnson with the district. So he did was able to just give us some plans that he has regarding safety and security all of the district as well as the cluster.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nunn. And for clarity, that the last thing that they wanted to focus on, they said attendance, but since they already had a focus on SEL, they said that SEL will just help solve the issue of attendance within the cluster. But thank you, Ms. Nunn.
Thank you. I did forget what it was, but thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Right now, we do not have any announcements. Okay, and I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6:27 today. Can I have someone second that motion?
A second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Our next meeting, you will get an email regarding the time in October. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Have a good night.